To the cloud.
Meeting is being recorded.
There we go. Everything is rolling. Let me pump up my screen here for sharing with you guys. And let's rock and roll. So you should have something from me now, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel told me this was Stockholm that Flavia put up for us this time. You know something about Stockholm, right, Daniel? So that is now confirmed. So the agenda for today, we're going to present ourselves. We're going to present Mani, the participant. We're going to talk about why we're doing this just shortly. And then I have some updates from the community, some things that Flavia has been giving me from Alteryx. And then we have two presentations. One is from our distinguished guest, Joshua, the chief evangelist of Alteryx, who's going to talk about some developments in Alteryx. And presentator number 2 will be Daniel, talking about loops. And then we'll talk about the next meeting coming up after this one. And just housekeeping, this meeting will be recorded and we're going to share it, at least the parts of it that we can share, on the community. And please feel free to interact or interrupt at any time that you want. Okay, so this is the 6th time that we're doing this. We are the guys in control. We decide whatever we want to talk about, and Alteryx supports us all the way. And we do this 4 times a year. So here's the user group leaders. So Johan stepped out. He was my former member, a colleague of mine. Now we've got Daniel instead. So welcome to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Michael.
Would you care to just give a short introduction about yourself?
Yeah. My name is Daniel, and I work in the business intelligence department at NKT Photonics. And I have been working with Alteryx for the last 2 years. Yeah, maybe like 2 years and 2 months since I joined the company. And it's been quite a journey. Like, it's been a steep learning curve, and it's been like really fun getting to learn all the cool things Alteryx can do. And finally, I get to contribute back to the community by showcasing stuff which we do from day-to-day life. And I can see that could benefit like some other people in case they want to find like simple or easy ways to make their life easier. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'm Michael. I started using Alteryx. I'm also with the same company that Daniel is, and I started using Alteryx in 2018, I think it was. That's 6 years ago now. That was like a mandate from our CFO at the time that Alteryx is going to be part of our company. So I was thrown into it, but it was a perfect start that I got there. And today I'm like, if someone took away Alteryx, I would seriously consider finding myself another job, because it's just such a pleasure to work with, and it really enhances the way that you think. So that was a game changer for me too. And I work in the R&D department of our company, trying to teach lasers how to tell us and our customers that they're going to have problems before the problems actually become serious problems. So that's what I'm using Alteryx for. And the support person we have from Alteryx, who's not with us right now, is Flavia. She's the one helping us with all the practicalities. And you, Mani, what is it? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah. So I work for Novartis, a pharmaceutical company based out of Basel here. I was introduced to Alteryx in my current job, I think 2000, maybe 21, 22. So since a little more than 2 years. I wouldn't consider myself big expert, but maybe crossed the beginner part now. Still have to learn macros. So that's it. Still on my learning list, to-do list. But as you said, also really as a business user who can't do coding at this moment, this is quite handy in manipulating data, creating pipelines in a fragmented landscape. So it's really like empowering users, and so yeah, it's also a game changer. I mean, when the big systems fail, I think small systems like Alteryx come in handy to a little bit catch up and tweak this has been my experience that some of the enterprise systems does not do the job what it's supposed to do. Then we try to fix it via Alteryx. So.
Nice. That could be interesting to hear about at another time, maybe how you fix bigger systems problems we're using Alteryx. An interesting use case. Well, thanks for that. So, like I said before, what do we hope to get out of this? Well, we're in control, so we basically decide what we're going to get out of this. We can always listen to wishes from the members about what we want to talk about. And if there are no wishes, me and Daniel are the ones trying to figure out what we can think about for the next meeting. But please, if you have any ideas for anything, big or small, it's always interesting to talk about. One of the reasons why I got inspired to work as a leader in this user group is that I feel that like the pleasure of talking informally with other Alteryx users directly is really inspiring to me. Like I like the big events like Inspire or other conferences, but there's like one-way communication often from like a big stage and down to us, and we can't really ask any questions. But here you can like have a real conversation with other people. I think that's really, really nice. And talking about what have we done in 2024, I just mined the previous meetings that we've had and things that we went through this year. We talked about cranking up the compute power with Alteryx. That was the last time. This is the one that you remembered, Mani. We also talked at that meeting about what changes would make Alteryx even better. We had a good user discussion about that one. Then we had at another meeting a talk called "How Did I Not Know That?" Combined with another talk called "Best Practices." So these are like tips and tricks for Alteryx. And then before that, we had the combination of using ChatGPT together with Alteryx. So this kind of like predates Aiden, but it was showing that you could really get things to run like 50 times faster if you combine ChatGPT, SQL, and Alteryx together. And at the same meeting, we also had the Alteryx Aiden presented by Mikael Sjöwall from Alteryx. So all of this is still available on YouTube. You can find the links on this site for our user group on the Alteryx community. And speaking about the Alteryx community, please make sure you register. If you're here, you probably registered already. And then there's the other updates, 24.3, I think actually is called. Isn't that right, Josh? It's not 24.2 anymore. It's 24.3.
No, it's just, yeah, we just have 2 releases per year. So
okay, so this is 24.2 that you're going to talk about.
Yep, exactly right.
Okay. So this is focusing, the things that we mentioned here is the Auto Insights Magic Reports, which is in preview now, which is AI assisted reporting. Then we have something called the Designer Cloud Standard Mode, which maybe Josh will speak a little bit more about that. And then there's the Designer Cloud Live Query. But in addition to this, I'm sure that there are lots of other things that we're going to hear about today. So I'm just going to skip over this for now. And a new thing that actually happened since last meeting, that the Alteryx has published some user guides, both for the Alteryx Designer and for the Alteryx Server. I certainly would have liked the user guide for the Alteryx Server once I started using that earlier on. So I'm going to go in and check these. I haven't seen them yet. But there are links to them on the community site as well. And then another thing that I really enjoyed, these short videos that Alteryx put out, really like snappy, very well produced videos, like only like 1, 2, 3 minutes long, where some really, really smart people in Alteryx show us their favorite tricks. And like, it's not everything that you think you can use, but I certainly found several nice tricks that I could use there. So I highly encourage you guys to go in and watch them. Then there's the Alteryx Aiden platform, which is still rolling. There's a video here, but I don't think I'm going to click on it because we don't want to spend too much time on that. But Alteryx Aiden is still on the way. And then there's the Inspire 2025 meeting in Las Vegas. I'm going to go there. I have previously been at Inspire in London and in Amsterdam, and these events were totally awesome. And it's been a while since I had one the last time. So this year or next year, I'm going to go. And if you want to try, you can submit a topic for a presentation. The deadline for doing this is January the 10th, 2025. I don't know what the chances are for being selected. I tried once and didn't get accepted, but there's certainly a chance. And if you get selected, you get a pretty big discount for the conference pass. So please try. Then there's the education programs. This is really something Alteryx is quite famous for. They have the certification program where you can get these recognized standardized certifications that you can use also going forward. There's the Alteryx Academy with the weekly challenges especially, and many other materials that you can glean lots of new learnings from. And then there's the Learning Marketplace. I don't know too much about that. You know, can you mention that just briefly, Josh, what this is about?
Yeah, this is just the, you know, a lot of our customers have the ability to access Learning Marketplace, which is just a lot of mostly content, but it's also material that is delivered by Alteryx resources.
Okay, so we would, like, if we have a designer license with our company, we also have access to this already. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, yeah, I think it requires yeah, exactly. He's right. It requires not a subscription per se, but it's part of the package that is that you have. But I think this might have just changed, so don't hold me to it too much. But I think how they're delivering this might change.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but I would just argue, like, if you're a new user or even an intermediate user, between certifications academy, like, you have so much information.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anybody to come away thinking like Learning Marketplace is you know, so something that you miss out on and you're kind of stuck in the water. You got plenty of the videos and all the interactive lessons and everything is all just very curated ideas.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Then you can be part of the Alteryx user. Sorry, did you want to say something, Mani?
No, the certification is free of charge, isn't it?
Certification's free for core and the micro credentials all the way up to advanced, but expert and those yellow ones, predictive master and designer expert, are last time I checked, I think they were $150 US.
Okay.
But they're significantly difficult, and so really good challenge. But yeah, you can get all the other ones up there. Those are free. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. That's enough for
Always
20.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would really recommend doing them. They're really good because the certifications are built a little differently than your typical, you know, AWS and SQL certs and everything, where like they're expecting that you do all this training and then take a certification to validate. We really built in the learning process as part of the certification because we can teach you all the, you know, videos and interactive lessons and teach you all these things, but like sometimes it's hard to know what you should know, right? So the certifications are a way to sort of validate the actual things that you need to know to be, you know, pretty effective. So there's, you know, Designer Advanced User, for example, has some predictive stuff in it. It has some spatial stuff in it, and this is, you know, you might not use spatial, but knowing how to use those tools and how they work is pretty good, pretty critical. Because you'll be surprised, you'll come up with use cases that make that valuable.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. Then it's possible to join the Alteryx User Experience Research Panel. So if you want to have an above average influence on the course and direction that Alteryx is taking going forward. This is definitely a good way to achieve that. So here you can sign up on this experience research panel. And then there's the podcasts from Alteryx called Alter Everything. I really like this. I listen to it once in a while when I'm walking with my dog. Really some well produced and interesting podcasts that they have here. So that I can definitely recommend this one. And now it's time for our presenter number one. And this time we got Joshua Burkhoff, who is the Chief Evangelist at Alteryx. I love that title. Josh, you've been with Alteryx for, was it 3 years?
Yeah, I think I'm going on my 4th year now.
Going on the 4th year, yeah. And before that, you were at the PwC and a bunch of other places, Nike, many other places.
Yeah, I was in a consulting firm for a good number of years as well.
Yeah, so you've been around and know lots of stuff, and we're very excited to hear about it.
Yeah. Let me I'll share my screen, and then also just let me see. I think I have. Yeah, I think you have to stop sharing. Maybe.
A recording? Well, I can pause it here. It says pause. That's great.
And the reason we can record here now is because 24.2 is publicly released, and it was released on October 30th, I believe. But it actually was a pretty big release. It had a lot of updates, had a lot of cool stuff in it, and I'm going to jump in there. I want to keep an eye on time. I know we have a little bit. Do you want me to just kind of do a quick breeze over so you can cover Daniel, and then get going, because I know we're kind of time constrained.
I think that sounds fine.
Yeah, totally. Go for it.
I'll do it fairly quickly, but I'll make sure to just cover just a couple minutes just to cover all the big things. So the summary things. There's a lot of new connectors. So this is one area. Remember, we do two updates, major updates every year. So there'll always be a .1 now and a .2, roughly, March, April timeframe, and then October timeframe. We've got a lot of new connectors. We've got a bunch of customized modern alerts. So these are all updates to UI. So you can connect, you can actually change the color of your connections, custom tool defaults, stuff like that. New tool functions. So we're actually going through and looking at how some of the tools actually operate and trying to improve those. The marketplace integration is a big one, is being able to say pull a package or a pack into Alteryx without having to go out and download it and bring it in. And a lot of functions and options that are being updated. So I'm going to breeze by some of these. The color connections is being able to segment your workflows a little bit cleaner to know. You could use this in a multitude of ways. You can do it to color what part of your workflows are not ready yet or not tested. You could even highlight pathways that a certain data source is following. If you're bringing in from a certain data source, you want to keep that all one color. There's a whole laundry list of ways that you could use this successfully. The custom tool defaults is pretty big, meaning you can now, in your tools, in that tool bottom left, you see where the icon is now, save as default. What that means is every time that you now bring that sample tool, it's always going to remember the configuration that you saved. And so you think about this from comments to, like, I like to use it in the formula tool, where I like to start off and say, this is a comment, so that I am forced to put a comment in my formula tools. That's something I like doing. But your comment boxes, any of your formula stuff, a lot of your preparation tools are really good, where your settings are really important. There's a bunch of hotkeys now. So these are shortcuts that allow you to get to things that normally take 3, 4, 5 clicks to get to, you'll no longer need to do that. The export workflow is probably the one I use a lot, and the compare workflows I use a lot, and I don't have to, those are through 4 clicks each. So this one is actually pretty good if you're really big into documentation, but also trying to just be more clear. You have the ability to have multiple lines of text. You could usually only in the past only have one line. Now you can have as many lines as you want. Now, this is actually a big one too, is when you're building your workflows, you're now going to see these sort of bar updates like this, like the green one, but there's some intelligence built into it. So it's no longer you're going to get all these pop-ups. This is more, standard like this, but it's smart to the point where when it runs successfully, you see that it's green. When it doesn't, it's red. It's very, very clear that you need to do something, but it has all the information, and you can kind of control how you want that to, when to show up and how. Some new tool functions. Crosstab is a big one where it's keeping the special characters. This is one that gets some of us caught up. JSON parse tool has some new options. And then there's a new rank tool. Literally, it's a new tool in your canvas that you'll see in 24.2, where you don't have to build this. This is something that normally we would have to build in like a multi-row formula tool or something like that. Now it's just we have this ability to do all the ranking straight from a tool. There's a whole bunch of other things I think I'll skip through. I do have a video out on LinkedIn from my profile. So if you connect with me, it's out there, and I walk through all of these. And I can also send to you if you're interested, just ping me. But a lot of the updates are around just making the overall platform better, and including server stuff, which I'll skip for this time, just for the sake of time. I know we're running a little bit late, but just so many big updates. I think I can turn it over to you for now, Daniel.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna try and take it over.
Thanks, Josh. It was really interesting.
Yeah, so sorry, there's just like more that I could, like I said, I could go probably 2 days.
I mean, to be fair, it was great. Mine is gonna be way less exciting as what you have shared, but I'm gonna try to make it as interesting as possible as I can. Clearly, you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about. It's also cool to see all the nice updates.
Yeah.
But that being said, let me go and find my little workflows. It's what I'm trying to. By the way, like, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have like two ways that I want to show what I'm doing, and it's basically like just dealing with loops, or how to make loops and to make them in such a way that they don't fail, or if they fail, they give you either an error or some clever input which you can use to either debug them or to do something about it, or to use them in a way which is not going to crash your system completely. So it will be a nice, useful tool that you can basically use to test your workflows and to, yeah, basically make your life easier for anyone that is going to need to use them. And initially, when I wanted to build this, I wanted to figure out a way how to download data, or like to test downloading data multiple times if it hasn't downloaded correctly the first time. And the way that I did it, initially, I wanted to download data from a SQL server. It was like quite simple, but sometimes it didn't fully want to work on the first try. and I was like quite curious, like why not? It didn't want to work, and it was actually like this little flow, and it was yeah, it was like this little workflow. It was like relatively like simple data, but when I tried to do it with the list runners, like sometimes it didn't want to work fully. So I was like, okay, well, there should be a way where I can tell it, okay, download data at least 2 or 3 times to be completely sure that the data has downloaded. Otherwise, like just let it go and let it run, and then I can look at it another day if something has went wrong. So that's what I started doing, and this is like quite very simple. This is like simple run. It will download data and it will output some kind of information which is relevant, and that will include the information which you need later on. But for this thing, I needed to build the loop, and the simplest thing I could think of is, okay, I'm gonna add one simple text input and just add a 1 to it, and that way I can say, okay, what is the datetime of this loop? Have I looped it before? And I give it an output, which is give me the loop count, how many times it has looped before. Yeah, before I need it to stop. And then I added like some conditions to it, and it's quite simple. We start the loop like it always starts at 1, and then we get the loop count from the previous loops, which are outputted here, and they come over here, and then it's always like 1 plus the loop count. And then I set up my own condition, like if the loop count is like more than 3 times, then stop the download and continue, else download again. So that means like if it's less than 3 times, then continue downloading it again to be completely sure, and if not, stop the download, because otherwise that will just take up a lot of resources and compute, and it will basically run forever. And then the second thing which I needed to do is I got this end balance, and I added like some intelligence to it to figure out, okay, what can I do? And there are like some extra things which could have been done, and these are very similar conditions to the ones that to the loop. And here, like to test it out, I'm basically looking at the max of the accounting date. It could be like any date or any type of parameter which you're looking for. And here I have my my parameter, so to say, which it needs to check, and then it will tell me, okay, like if it didn't download today or like the latest date, if it didn't happen in this period, then run again. And if I change this into another text input to let's say I just copy this. Let's copy this thing. I'm gonna put it 10. Let's see what's gonna show. Okay, at 10 it's gonna be run again. Yeah, so it's basically giving me like don't don't run again, and it will look at this specific filter, which is telling me like, okay, if it runs again, then continue. And this is where I'm going to have like my second check, which is going to look at the loop count. Okay, but let me just change it back to, because let's say like in this case, we want it to run again. So we want this one to go through. And here it says like run again. And this is based on the first condition which we set up. And this is the second one. We have an input file where we have all the workflows which we want to run. And this is going to be connected to a list runner again. And here we have like our folders. And at this point, we have all of the things which we want to run. And then we have a loop count, which says like currently it's 94. So it says like stop the download and continue. And then I have like a condition. If it has failed, in this case, like this hasn't failed, then it's gonna point out down to this way, and then it will go and run successfully and to run the rest of the flows which we have in the data stream. And then it will say like, okay, don't run again. And this will do, what this will do is it will go here and it will go and check the loop count. And this is like the last thing which we need to set up. We need to go and find the file. We need to hook it up again in another workflow. We just set the loop count, we set it to 0, and it will output it to 0 again. And then it resets the loop. And this way, like once we start again, it will be only 1 once it comes here, because this one would be at 0. If we do it like this, if we run the loop, then this one should be okay. Maybe I've opened the wrong workflow. I just need to check. Yeah, okay. Edit, send it to the wrong. Yeah, in this way it resets the loop, and this one, this time it will fix it and it should be okay. Okay, I need to figure out why this didn't work out this time. Yeah, I've been playing around with the workflows nowadays, and I've been changing a lot of the locations just to make the small presentation. But basically, it will give us a list runner, which will tell us like whether it should run the flows again or it shouldn't run the flows again. And once you have made up the structure with start the loop, check the imbalance, make your own checks, and then tell it like which files you want it to run again, then you can make your own you can make your own list runner. And once you make the list runner, that will basically say like, okay, it's time to test out the list runner. Should you do like all the checks? And then it will run and it should finish without having like too complicated, and just making it simple and easy to run while checking, let's say like your data to download like 3 times instead of like going on infinitely and just crashing your computer and all of your workspace. And if you want to make it an infinite loop, it's quite simple. I made here a little file. We actually don't need this. We only need to make another list runner which will run the rest of the list runners, and we remove what we had here. It was it was the loop counter, and basically this should run infinitely once it's in the other list runner which opens this one, because if this one says run again, then it will continue running again and again and again and again until we have like basically an infinite amount of possibilities to run the workflows which haven't run successfully. And that's pretty much it.
Super cool, man.
Daniel, so I'd still didn't get this. So
Can you
you
say?
show. No, I'm a little bit lost. No, that so the rerunning of, can you connect me to your loop and the running of the workflow? Maybe that so you have a workflow. So you have a
Yes.
business logic in a workflow, and then
Yes.
you have something technical, which is the looping part. And so how is it connected? So you finally have how are you touching the business workflow based on the outcome of this loop?
Okay, so the idea of the loop is you make a completely like blank file, which you populate it with, let's say, the number 1, and then you connect it back to itself, because this will output the file that you want, like initially, and then you will have like something which is called like a loop counter. Like that's how I've called it. At least you can call it whatever you want, and then you just add this file again, because this is your output file. Then you have it as an input file in a folder which you have decided. So it's going to be here, and this is like my loop count over here.
Okay.
So you put basically the same file which you output as an input, and then obviously this is basically like your whole loop. And every single time when you run this, this should give you like +1, +1, +1, +1. It should continue like adding up all the information that you have added up until this point.
It keeps running, you mean?
Yes, yeah, it keeps on adding like
Yeah.
it keeps on adding the data. So every single time when it reruns this workflow, it will give you +1.
Yeah.
And the idea of this is, once you have like this implemented, then somewhere in your workflow, when you want to check something, just a sec. But my computer is a bit crashing. Yeah, so the idea basically is like whatever you've put here in the beginning, and it runs, like now it's gonna pick up like the high number. Maybe because my computer crashed before, and then that's why I didn't want to update. Like now it's gonna have like quite a high number. So this is what I'm integrating to check how many times my first workflow has run.
Okay.
And once it has decided like, okay, this shouldn't run anymore, or it should run more times, then I decide, okay, if it runs like a certain amount of times, then I should also stop running this workflow, because it's crashing and it's giving me some errors. And that's when I decide just to run a normal list runner with the rest of my workflows which I have left. And in this case, it will be only this. So it's going to be start the loop, and this has like part of my business logic. This one checks if this one has already downloaded the data, if it's correct, and if it should try again. And in this case, like right now, I can set up this to be 200 times, like download this like 200 times instead. So in this case, like this will go forward. And then this part of my workflow decides, okay, like look at the files and folders which I have.
So the triangle is the business. What is that tool? The triangle tool. That's where you have the logic.
You mean this one? Yeah.
What is it? That's
okay.
that's
So this tool is the list runner.
Okay, that's what I didn't know that. Okay, that's where. Okay.
This
Yeah,
runner
and
is
list
part
runner,
of the crew macros. It's actually a macro pack that you have to install, man.
I see. Okay. Okay. Now I get it. Okay. So now I understood
yeah,
the concept. Okay. So that's what is actually getting triggered based on these loops. Okay.
yes, exactly. So
Mhm.
once this information goes through, it decides which workflows you have decided to run.
Mhm.
And in this case, this should
Got it.
rerun all of the workflows again. And that's like starting from the beginning. And in this case, if it's more than, let's say, 200
Yeah.
times, then don't run the rest of the flows. And I
Mhm.
can exclude, for example, like the first 3 workflows because I know, or like,
Mhm.
let's say this was 10 workflows before and I trimmed it down. I
Okay.
can tell it like, okay, don't start the first and second anymore, and just go and finish the last workflow. And obviously, like
Okay.
next time when you want to run it, like on the next day or like whenever you want to, the whole point is that this one should erase your loop count, so it doesn't start from 200 anymore. It should start from
Okay.
a way
Yeah.
lower
Erase.
number.
Okay.
It should start from 0 or like from 1.
Got it. Got it.
One of the interesting things you got going here is, so if you just need straight looping, like that's the iterative macro. Iterative macro will do just the looping. But I think where Daniel is actually hitting on it is the intelligence to be able to loop through something and make decisions on whether you're going to go down path A or path B or path C.
Mhm.
And that's where like this is actually pretty slick because an iterative macro is just going to go based on the logic that you give it, and it's going to run that however many times you dictate. And that there's some, you can build some intelligence into the iterative macro, but where it's really cool is this sort of
Mhm.
um, at runtime intelligence around the pathway to take. Basically, another way to say it is, Daniel, you kind of got this manifest builder. So it's literally saying, hey, I tapped into this data set. I have 20 jobs to run.
Mhm.
Here's my manifest. I built the manifest. And then all the list runner does is it takes a list and then runs through those.
Yes.
So like you being able to build that sort of intelligent manifest, which could, I mean, you could go into 1,500 different ways to build that. But like the way that you're doing it is you're looping through, creating that manifest, and then essentially executing on it. That's pretty slick, man. I like it.
Yeah, I thought it has to be like super simple because I don't like writing very complicated formulas or macros or
Yeah, totally.
I don't like anything complicated. I want it to be as simple as possible where I could go and look, okay, it's like 2 files. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, stop it, and that's it. One of the other things which I have considered, because you can have like obviously time intelligence built into it, like further time intelligence. And if you want to run something at a specific time, then the only thing which you can add to it is like, give me, is this time of the day, or like run only between 7 and 10 during the
Yeah.
day. And that's like one of the other things which I have built around it.
It's like, yeah. It's sort of like the manifest thing, the looping, but it's also like an orchestrator of sorts.
So-
It's like,
And these things you're doing also without the server, right? So you're doing everything in Designer, and so you kind of simulating the capabilities of server, which is the scheduling and all that stuff, but using the server. I mean, so the Designer, isn't it, Daniel? So
but if
Yeah.
you're thinking about this, Manny, you could actually, with his set of workflows, that list runner could almost be swapped out to where it's not running more workflows, it's running server API calls. So like you could have all your workflows up on the server and you run this guy and it will basically build that list of workflows, but then the execution is actually API calls to various sources or all server jobs to do stuff. Like there's a lot of flexibility that you could build into this, what, you know, his sort of framework that he's got.
Mm.
So
Yeah, totally. I mean, also like the main workflow, which is like, I mean, it's not called like loops in my world, but it is basically like call it like once a day or like twice a day when it's needed, and then it does exactly that.
yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
I like it a lot.
Cool.
Thank you very
Super
much.
cool, man.
This definitely will make a big difference in the daily management of all the downloads that we've been struggling with in our company, Daniel. It's a recurring thing. I mean, you have these hundreds of different sources that you're pulling data from, and
Mhm.
accumulated. I mean, if you assume that everything works, it's great. But if you have hundreds of sources, the probabilities add up, right? So suddenly, like once a week or twice a month or something stops and crashes, and everything else falls down like a card house.
Right.
So this can build some more robustness into that whole system.
And that was the whole point, because like you didn't want to download in the beginning, and I was like, okay, well, let's try it again. If not, let's try it again
Yeah.
until it works.
Yeah.
The only problem is like once
I like
the-
solutions like this that are very extensible, meaning I know already I can think of 10 different ways that would add little pieces to it to make it work for my scenario. Like if I do a query and I get no records back, I want to, you know, I want to be able to adjust and modify, and, you know, I want to maybe run a different workflow first, then run the one that you originally planned. A lot of flexibility.
Here you go, Daniel. This is your ticket to Las Vegas.
There you go.
loop, huh?
Should be a fun one.
Partner with
Okay,
Joshua.
let me just grab the screen again. I'll jump back to the slides so I can wrap up here. I should have my slides here. I think this is where we were at. So yeah, I think this is pretty much it. I can only make sure that everyone is part of the community membership page. The next meeting, we're going to have that in 3 months. So around March or on March the 12th, a Wednesday again. At least this is what I suggest next year. After this meeting, we're going to have a recap in writing and the video recordings that we made, minus some of the stuff that Josh talked about. That's going to be posted online so that we have that for eternity. And the next thing is, of course, to see if could we have anyone to volunteer to tell us what they're working on for the next presentation. Any kind of thing would be interesting. It can be something cool you've done, or just show us in the stuff some of the use cases that you're working on. That would be great if there's anyone out there.
I think I'm gonna be very busy next year with the baby. So
Yeah, the baby. There's a baby coming. But we still have 3 months to think about it.
I was just gonna say, I'm putting a link to the video that I was referring to on 24.2, so you can go out, check that out. Not full comprehensive thing, but it's enough to give you all the big updates.
the one on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And thanks to both of you, Josh and Daniel, for sharing and working on presenting this. It's really something that adds value for the rest of us, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, well, thanks for your time. See you some other time.
All right, take care. Have a good one. Nice to
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Joshua. Thanks,
My
Dan.
pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.